Would you pray with me? May the words of my mouth and meditation of our hearts be acceptable in thy sight, O God, our strength and our living and loving Redeemer. Amen. If you want to walk on water, you've got to get out of the boat. You may have heard something like that before. Somebody's even written a book with that title. It's a phrase that makes reference to our gospel lesson this morning. Fresh off the feeding of the 5,000, Jesus sends his disciples off ahead of him. And he says goodbye to the crowds. Finally, he is about to have some alone time. Now it's time to catch up with the disciples. Their boat is out on the lake and it's struggling with the wind and the waves. And apparently wind and waves don't affect have as much of an impediment on foot traffic because Jesus is able to catch up to them despite their head start. And when he does catch up with them, the disciples are terrified. And understandably so. I mean, we've heard this story before. We know that Jesus is able to walk on water. They don't. They just see this thing walking on water and they are terrified. Jesus responds, "Take heart, it is I. Do not be afraid." Now, in this story, Peter is often praised. Sure, he eventually sank into the water, but he was the only one bold enough to take that leap of faith, to leave the safety of the boat behind and take that step of faith out onto the water. If you want to walk on water, you've got to get out of the boat. But I'm not sure if all of the praise of Peter is completely warranted. First of all, this great act of faith actually started out as disbelief or doubt. And here's what I mean by that. Jesus speaks to the terrified disciples. He says, "Take heart. It is I." Now, perhaps the other 11 disciples took Jesus at his word and believed him. Or perhaps they were too afraid of the water-walking ghost to challenge his claim, and so they just stood there petrified. Either way, Peter doesn't believe Jesus. He says in verse 28, "Lord, if it is you, command me to come to you on the water." If it is you, as in I don't believe that it is you. So Jesus invites Peter to come join him out on the water. And to Peter's credit, he does, at least for a while. He gets distracted by the wind and the waves, and he begins to sink. You know the rest. Jesus rescues him, brings him, "Oh, you of little faith," and he brings him back to the boat. Now, I find it interesting that Matthew doesn't record Jesus, chastising the other 11 disciples. It doesn't have Jesus saying, "Hey, guys, quit laughing at Peter. Sure, he's all wet and might look a little bit funny, but at least he had the guts to get out of the boat. Why didn't you?" No, he doesn't say that. And I'm kind of glad he doesn't, because if I'm being honest, I would probably be there with the other 11. I mean, after all, you're in the middle of a storm, and it seemed to be in a perfectly good boat, and Jesus doesn't say, come out of the boat now. It's Peter's idea to do it. Jesus just goes along. But that's why I don't like it when people want to place Peter at the center of the story and place their focus on him. Sometimes people say things like, well, we should be like Peter and take bold leaps of faith. We should trust in God, get out of the boat and walk on water. And even if you sink, at least you tried. So if our focus shouldn't be on Peter and his walking on water, where should it be? Well, a good answer to that question, a good answer to the question of where should our focus be, is always Jesus. We focus on Jesus, the Lord of all creation, who is able to walk on water, who is able to calm the storm. We focus on Jesus, who is coming to save. the overexcited guy who got out of the boat and ended up sinking, as well as the people who remain in the boat. There will be times when we are each. There will be times when you are eager and excited to try something new, and so you take a bold step of faith. And when you do, if and when things begin to go wrong and you begin to sink, Jesus will be there to save you. There will be times when you are much more comfortable to stay inside the boat. And when you do, even as wind and waves toss the boat to and fro, Jesus will be there to save you. It might be true that you can't walk on water unless you get out of the boat. But whether you're in the boat or out, keep your eyes on Jesus. Amen.